Welcome to No Small Roles. This is the show where I speak with fellow actors about their careers and about some of their smaller roles in big movies and TV, and how those roles were in fact not at all small for the actors who played them. So today's guest is the acting powerhouse, inspirational one-woman cheerleading team for up-and-coming actors, the dynamic Audrey Moore. Audrey, woohoo!
Woohoo! I'm here.
Thank you for joining the show.
Thank you for having me. I'm thrilled. Always glad to see you.
Now, everyone knows you from Damages, CSI Miami, The Middle, Silicon Valley, The Night Shift, Bella and the Bulldogs, Code Black, Manhattan, Feud, Godless, Lucifer, Stuck in the Middle, Castle Rock, NCIS, The OA, Dirty John, DOPESICK, Better Call Saul, Grey's Anatomy, and most importantly for us fellow actors, the host of the Audrey Helps Actors podcast.
Yes. Yay, that's me.
Yay, that is you, and you're pretty amazing. So I really appreciate you coming to join us.
Always thrilled.
Now, before we begin, I have a very important kind of probing question, maybe a little personal.
Love.
Are you ready for this?
Mm-hmm.
Do you prefer grilled cheese with or without tomato?
I mean, I can go either way. All is good. Well, It's also about the quality of the tomato. I think that's an important discussion. Are we talking California farmers market tomato, or are we talking like sad tomato from like a Ralph's?
I didn't even know that was a thing till I spoke to my neighbor Mike across the street. That tomatoes matter. So for me, it's whatever kind of tomato, but you're not.
It's not whatever kind of tomato, just like it's not whatever kind of cheese.
Oh shoot. Okay, so you don't. Okay, well, what kind of cheese would you use?
It just like what are we in the mood for? You know, are we going to do Havarti and dill? Are we going to do cheddar? Are we going to do mild cheddar, sharp cheddar? Are we doing a combo pack of cheddars with maybe a little bit of mozzarella so it's extra stringy? You know.
Do you do the wrapped cheese? Would you do that in the little plastic, when we were kids?
Oh, sure.
Okay.
I don't believe that is probably as tasty, except for nostalgia.
Okay.
Like there's something about like nostalgia flavor that's like, why does it sing to my heart?
Yeah.
And it shouldn't really, because objectively, if you handed it to a neutral person, blind taste test, they'd be like, what is this? But in my soul, I'm like, yay,
it's
I'm
so neat with like butter and a little bit of mustard. It's kind of amazing.
Oh, a mustard even. All right.
Yeah, my grandma used to do that.
I like that. I'm here for it.
Now, one trend. So thank you for your answer on that. And I'm sorry to jump being so personal right away.
Of course.
But I have to ask you, one trend that I'm noticing with actors that work a lot is that they are intelligent and empathetic and hardworking, and you seem to continue this trend.
Well, I'm sorry to disappoint you, but I'm none of those things.
Oh, you are. Liar! You're lying. I'm sorry to call you a liar, and I'm
okay. Good.
So why are you an actor? Because you are those things.
Oh, great question. I started acting so young. And it was one of those things where I just immediately felt so correct about it. But also, I would do anything for my mother's attention. Still true. And at 7 years old, I did a play and my mom came to see it and she gave me compliments. And so I feel from that moment on, my fate was sort of sealed. I did eventually learn that I have a long family history of actors and performers. I just didn't know that because it sort of skipped my father's generation and his parents' generation.
Okay.
But beyond that, my great-grandfather was apparently Cab Calloway's manager.
Oh, wow.
And was a silent film actor and had also had a traveling acting school, I guess you'd say, because at that time you learned a play a week and then you would just go anywhere in the country and say, these are the 10 plays I have memorized.
Oh my God.
And that's how actors worked, is they just went and said, I can do any role in Hamlet, do you have any work for me? And so he would teach actors a play a week, and then they could go and do that play wherever they wanted to.
Could you learn a play in a week?
I've learned a play in less than 24 hours.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Like a full play?
A full play. Lead.
Oh my God. So yeah, your brain's way bigger than mine.
I don't think so. It's, no, you could learn a play in a day. You know,
Right.
it's absolutely. I mean, especially because plays are written in such a fantastic way where good plays are written in a way where the dialogue that you want to say is also the dialogue that's written.
Yeah.
So if you can get into the flow where the actors already know their lines and they know what to do and they're sort of helping you with all of that, then it does feel like, oh, okay, this is what I would say next, and it's right there.
Yeah, I guess good writing does make the difference.
It does, absolutely.
So you said there's other people in your family too, or is that kind of...
Well, so it was sort of that branch. So that's my dad's side. And they are very theatrical, and I've known them to be very theatrical, but they just didn't go that path. But my great-grandmother and great-aunt, her sister, born and raised in Los Angeles, working on the silent pictures here. Oh, wow. And also, I guess my grandfather and his son and nephew and niece were all actors. I've seen their headshots from the 20s and 30s. It's very cool.
That is really cool.
Isn't that cool?
So obviously with this in your genes, you said you did theater to kind of, get your mom's attention. Do you have siblings?
Sure.
Were you kind of fighting?
Yes.
Okay.
Oh, for sure. Yes, for sure. Fighting for as much attention as I could possibly get, still to this day, even though I've got plenty of attention.
Yeah.
It doesn't seem to be satiated when it comes to family dynamics. So I'm here for all of it.
But family was supportive. Not, again, I don't want to get as personal.
So supportive. No, we can get so personal. Listen, I have 140 something episodes where I'm very personal. So
True.
I'm fine to put it all out there. Yeah, my family's always been very supportive. But the expectations growing up were very low. If I didn't end up, pregnant and on meth, everyone was winning.
Which you have not yet.
I have not yet.
Yes. Okay.
So that was sort of the standard, and so the fact that I now have kids, that you have children, and I know some of my friends' parents, friends who are parents, talk about this. That when you have a child who is just very excited to love something and has a passion for something, it does sort of make things easier on the parent as a whole, because they're sort of structuring themselves and their own self-discipline for that particular passion, which means that the parent doesn't have to do as much watching, because the child is doing a lot of watching of themselves for this thing that they're passionate about. And so that's really what happened, was that I had become so disciplined in acting at such a young age, and I knew exactly what schools I wanted to go to, and I found out by 12 what GPAs I needed in order to go to those schools, and what the process was to get into those schools, and what sort of SATs and ACT scores I needed. And so I was very disciplined just on my own personal, self necessity to make sure I accomplished those things. And that I think made things easier for my parents in terms of watching me. And also I was having a great time.
Acting can be kind of fun.
It can be fun.
It can be fun. So that's, I see what you're saying, because that kind of propels you to find whatever experiences you're going to find, discover the world, and follow your dreams. I just kind of follow the wind. I'm like, oh, it blew me this way. Okay, I'll do that.
Did you really?
I did.
Did you?
I'm still doing that.
Great. Well, not really. You're pretty focused. You're a pretty focused guy.
Depends on the day.
Okay, good.
Now, before we continue, another segment coming up later in the show is something I like to call the Kiss and Tell. And that's when we share a behind the scenes story that either something that rubbed you the wrong way, something that excited you, or something.
Great.
Can you tease it in one word if you have something in mind?
Yes. Let's do confidence, I would say.
Confidence. I'm going to write that down with my working pen.
Okay, great. I will too.
Excellent. Okay. So that'll be your Kiss and Tell coming up later in the show.
Okay, great.
Now, you are from Albuquerque, New Mexico.
I am.
And your first job in LA, as far as I understand, was Damages, playing waitress.
Right.
How do you go from being Albuquerque young stage person to being waitress in Damages?
Well, I will actually say that my first, but it's credited differently on IMDb, is actually the role of OT woman on In the Middle. And that was a really great experience. The infamous G. Charles Wright was the casting director. He's a fantastic comedy teacher here in LA and a casting director of many of the best shows that have aired on television. And I had done a workshop with him, and at the time I had a lot of success in booking a lot of commercials. And so that was wonderful. And then he knew me from the workshops as somebody who had booked a lot of commercials. And so they needed an actor to play a spokesperson of a commercial within the TV show.
Okay.
And so he brought me in, and I was so nervous. I mean, I was so freaked out. And I was really grateful because I think it was a same day audition. I got called in. I ran over to the studio where they were holding auditions. Everyone actually sat in the room and had to wait. So we did our first round.
In the room of the audition?
Of the, so the audition was in the room, but then there's the waiting room.
Oh, the waiting room.
And so there was probably about 20 of us sitting in the waiting room because we were all called at the same time. And then we sat there, and then the cast director came back out, G came back out, and had a couple of us go back in. And then they said, okay, everyone stay here. They're going to make their decisions now.
Wow.
And then they said, okay, Audrey, you have it. You're going to wardrobe now.
Oh my God. And how weird for the other people,
Absolutely. It was like theater in middle school, where they post the cast list on the door and everyone's like, and some people
it's kind of horrible.
Like that. Yeah. It was.
You must have been like, yay, but sorry.
Well, no, I think everyone was just kind of freaked out. So I don't know that anyone was so devastated so much as just still in the shock part of it all. And then you went home.
So
Except for me.
So you went straight to a costume fitting. How soon were you working on it?
I think probably the next day. That's probably why they did it so fast. Yeah, because it wasn't something that they were doing in the show. It was something they were shooting separately. So at the same time they were shooting the show, they had a team shooting these commercials on the other side.
Okay.
And so I'm sure it was one of those things where they're like, yeah, we'll get to it. And then they were like, we have to do this. We have to finish this episode. And so they needed, I think there were 3 of us because there was 3 different commercials and I was in one of them and they just shot them separately.
So I want to take a step back. So
great.
You had this acting coach who you did commercials with and booked you in this thing. How did you, because you help inspire people with your Audrey Helps Actors podcast, how did you get your agent? How did you get those opportunities? How did you,
I've been very lucky. I have never lived my life without an agent since I started professionally acting, which is really great. Yeah, I graduated from Boston University and I had a fantastic showcase from there.
Is that in New York? Is that?
The showcase was in New York. Yep. We did one in LA
being
too,
stupid.
but I see. Okay, great. Yeah, the Boston, New York showcase. Yeah, so it was Boston University did a showcase in New York and Los Angeles, and I got representation in both, but my New York representation offers were the strongest. So
Okay.
I went there, and I just I've never had a moment without theatrical and commercial representation
That's
since
amazing.
graduating. Yeah, I didn't know
Really?
that was unique until much later when people would take 14 years to get an agent, and I just had a very different experience.
And clearly people trusted you from your talent, so that says a lot.
I think it was a combination, now that I see it, I think it's a combination of talent, which I'll take, but also this idea that I'm going forward. And I think a lot of actors feel a sense of, like tapping on the door, like, hey, could I please come in? I'd love to
Yeah.
be an actor, which is super normal.
Mhm.
And I just came in with such a forceful belief that I'm happening, so are you coming on this journey or not? And I think that sets a tone of not only is she able and interested in doing the work that it takes to get there, but she's also confident in her belief that it is inevitable. And that I think draws sellers in, because they're selling you. And so if you don't sell you, then why would they sell you? But if you're like, I'm a great marketable sell, then I think they respond
Yeah.
to that.
And I'm
Yeah.
doing this with or without you. I mean, that's
Yeah.
a lot of people I talk to doing this is
Mm-hmm.
they say when they were younger, they have had a lot more confidence. They didn't think everything completely through, just kind of went for it. It does not sound like that's you. It seems like you knew exactly what you were doing with the confidence.
Yeah, I had people early on who would say that what was sort of weird about me was that I would look at somebody else's success, maybe somebody that I went to college with or somebody that I knew from a class or something, and it never panged me. I was never upset about it. They were like, are you ever jealous of the fact that they're, and I was like, no, mine's coming. And that I didn't have this feeling that I was going to wait tables forever. It took quite a while before I started to think like, oh, am I maybe not going to stop waiting tables? And so, but I came out with years of feeling like my time is nigh.
Really? Well, and then you played waitress on TV. So
I did. I mean, of all the roles, I could just count the roles that I did, especially in the beginning, that get cut because,
sure.
that's what most of them do in the beginning. And it was a good lesson because I sort of knew, okay, there's something bigger than me happening, and it's not because I'm terrible, and it's not because of that. It's because there's edits going on, and
it's about pacing. It's not about us.
so many things.
I've
Not
been
about
cut
us.
so many times. Yeah, that's one thing. Everyone's been cut, and it is what it is. It sucks. It does suck at the time
It sucks.
because of
Especially early on when you don't know. Now I just assume I'm getting cut. Like now my whole approach to my career is like, all right, we'll see what happens next. And all right, we'll see what happens next. And all right, we'll see what happens next,
Totally
as opposed to anything else.
But I think it's always worthy of celebrating from the moment you book it. You've done the job, you booked the role. You can't necessarily post about it or whatever, but you can be like, yay, that's a huge win, regardless of what happens with it.
Especially once you know that anybody booking any role is a miracle. It's a true act of God that's coming in. And that's any role of any size and any kind. And so when I started to understand that, then celebrating any win of any size starts to become a very important part of it, because just like life, you only have so many times where you get to control the experience of being something good or something bad. And so when something good happens, it's just good to acknowledge and enjoy it, and not let the possible destruction of that win be the thief of joy to it as it exists right now.
Well said. Yeah, I think just getting the opportunity, that is the win. You're like, oh my gosh, someone wants to see me, so I get to do my thing. And then you book it, and that's like the icing on the cake. It's like, okay.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yes.
money follows too, which is kind of nice.
Yes,
When you get paid.
I love getting paid. I'm here for it.
Yeah, me too. I like that part. Residuals? I just got residuals. It's like free money.
Love it. I know. It's so great.
Didn't expect that.
It's not free, though. You earned it.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I still like to think, oh, wow, I didn't deserve that. Yeah. I did 22 years ago. What?
That's how you know you're indoctrinated in capitalism, is when you earn money and you feel like you don't deserve it. We'll have to all work hard to change that.
That's a good note. Thank you, Audrey.
Yes.
So so 2007, things start moving into, feature television work from commercials. And then a few years later, I think it's around 2015, you get your first recurring, which I believe is in Bella and what is it?
Yes. Bella and the Bulldogs. It was actually a summer of multiple recurrings, which was very cool.
I see that in my notes too.
Yeah, that one year, what had happened was I had made enough money and gotten enough courage to quit my serving job, and then was able to just completely pursue acting full time. And through that, I put a lot of work into the audition process and a lot of time and energy into really treating the hours I would have been spending waiting tables. I was spending that very actively pursuing and trying to solve the distance between where I wanted to be and where I was.
Yeah.
And during that time, at that year, I had gone from, I think the year previous, where I booked a couple jobs, to 2015, I think I booked a television job a month.
That's amazing.
That entire year it was, and much of it recurring. So I'd be brought in for this show, and then brought in for 3 more episodes. Brought in for that show, and then brought in for 3 more episodes. So that was really a huge turning point and affirmation that I was starting to work properly.
Yeah, and so do you think when you made those, you thought it was going to be a one-day appearance or 1 week or whatever? Do you think they're like, oh wow, she really holds her own, she would be a great recurring character? How do you think why do you think you got to come back?
Great questions. Some of them were meant to come back. So Bella and the Bulldogs, I had auditioned for it already as a recurring role. Okay. And so when I auditioned for it, that was part of the bag. They had a very hard time casting that role, and I was they had released a second breakdown because they had had such a difficult time finding an actor for the role. And so they re-released the breakdown and had more auditions for more actresses for that role.
What was the breakdown, if you don't mind me interrupting?
Oh, absolutely. The breakdown, essentially, that was a time when everyone was still wanting like a Jane Lynch coach of a high school team, because it was I was playing a coach. I was playing an athletic coach. Okay. And so everyone sort of had this idea of a Jane Lynch character, and unfortunately, the only person who can really do Jane Lynch is Jane Lynch, and so great for her, but for everyone else. And so everyone was coming in sort of doing these gruff interpretations, I think, of a high school cheerleading coach, and everyone was wearing like sort of the school color is this blue, and everything was kind of dour. And I came in in hot pink everything, in hot pink little bow, like a 5-year-old bow on my head, and a hot pink whistle, and a hot pink like a chart with what are they called?
Clipboard? No.
Clipboard. That's my favorite prop, the clipboard. Clipboard. And so I was doing it instead of Jane Lynch. I went absolutely the opposite and was just so enthusiastic and so excited for everybody to be learning cheer. And also I call these characters I like to do dumb but enthusiastic. Yeah. Like they don't really know what they're doing, but they're happy to be doing it. And
That's
that
me
worked
as a
very
person.
well. Ditto. And so that worked very well. They really took to that interpretation. And they actually had me do 3 different levels. They had me, because I came in swinging, because it was a kid show, and they said, go a little smaller, and they said, go a little smaller. So then on the day of actually filming, because it's a multicam, so you rehearse all week, and then you film on a Saturday. And so I went to my first day of rehearsal, and the director said, so I haven't seen your audition. I don't know what you did. And I thought, And I said, well, I did one broad, and then I did it a little bit smaller, and then did it a little bit smaller. And he said, okay, what are you going to do today? And I said,
Oh, wow.
medium? We'll start with medium. And he was like, okay. But it was because the showrunner had picked me, probably because I was a recurring role. And then the director just hadn't seen my work yet. So it was a surprise to all of us.
And do you feel you played it medium, or did you end up going bigger? Or
God, who only knows?
okay,
What does medium mean? I don't know. Because part of it is that when you're shooting multicam, well, you're shooting anything. If you're doing a lot of wides, there's a broadness that is available to you.
sure.
And it's not available to you as it's not as palatable maybe when you're in an audition experience.
That makes sense.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah. No, yeah. That makes sense.
Hopefully I gave all 3 and then they chose what to edit in.
Yeah. Well, the cool thing is that you got it because you thought outside the box. You didn't give them what you thought they wanted.
The only thing I have in common with Jane Lynch is that I'm tall. That's the only thing that I'm bringing to the table with her. So I started to learn that I couldn't bring the idea that I thought they were looking for. I had to solve the problem of the story through my own casting in a way that made sense.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, I had one yesterday. I'm like, I have no idea what they want. I don't think I'm this guy, but whatever. I'm going to do my thing, whatever feels right to me.
Yeah.
And that's
They're calling you.
That's exactly. That's all you can do. So you recur again after that. You have another recurring on Manhattan.
Same year.
I have a clip of that. Do you mind if I play it?
Let's play it. I'm excited.
And I'm sorry I don't have clips of these other things.
I love it.
I got a few.
So, you traded away the afternoon shift? I thought you and Frenchie were attached to the hip.
I prefer to spend afternoons with my son.
Well, she asked me to give this back to you.
And you're in 6 episodes of this.
I am. I was even, I think, in one more. It was my first one, but I got cut out of it.
Figures, right? But whatever.
Okay, they brought me back.
Yeah, exactly. And how was that experience?
That was great. The first one, I was so freaked out and nervous. I couldn't even stand it. I had, I think 2 lines, and I had these papers on the desk because I was working at a Manhattan project phone call center. And so I was doing the hello, it's like a hello, And then I had these lines tucked under the notes, and I just kept taking them out of the little notepads that they had given us and staring at them and saying them in my head and then putting them back in, and then taking them out and staring at them and saying them and then putting them back in, because I was pretty freaked out. At that time, Rachel Brosnahan hadn't become the tour de force yet, but she had broken out from her show on House of Cards. She had a really phenomenal role on House of Cards. And then from that, she had gotten this great role on Manhattan. And I had a fascinating learning experience, particularly because I had done so many episodes. So I really got to see such a broader, fuller perspective than somebody who maybe goes in and does an episode and then leaves and goes home.
Did you know it was recurring when you booked it?
Not at all, but I do think, if I were to hypothesize, that was, I think, the third or fourth role I had auditioned for on the show. And it was like the third episode of this season was the first one I booked, or the third episode of the show as a whole. And I do like to tell myself that I was being held for a role that they knew would maybe go larger.
That's nice that they kept on bringing you back. And
it was great.
We can all, though, relate to that fear of dropping the line, because when it's just like a line or two, I find it so much harder, especially when you're first. I mean, this isn't like a first opportunity, but on, it can be a little scary because you don't want to be the one to destroy the deck of cards. And
yeah, now I feel that in the beginning of my career, I felt that my mantra was don't fuck it up, don't fuck it up, don't fuck it up. And as you get more experience, I think it's easier to say, well, everybody fucks things up, and that might be you today, but it doesn't matter, you're going to get cut anyway. See, it's the you're going to get cut anyway that relieves me from all of the stress. Yes, you're going to get cut anyway, whatever. Yeah.
That'll be because everyone does get cut. So
everyone gets cut. Yeah, absolutely. Yes.
I'm going to lean more on that.
No, I lean on it all the time.
So then, and I need to ask you, so eventually you get to Better Call Saul. And I know there's a lot in between.
Great.
What is that? Is that a recurring? What exactly is that? Because you're in
another. I am. I was so fortunate to be on such a great part of that entire journey. I didn't understand yet at that point. My understanding of script analysis and shows and the writing as a whole and who's involved in them and how that kind of dictates how the show goes. You know, at that time and still today, those two showrunners, Vince and Peter, they'd had such an outstanding run with Breaking Bad, nothing like it, right? And so their writing staff was the best that the business could buy. Their actors, their crew, they could pick anyone from anywhere. And so they didn't just have to pick people who were good. They could pick people who were good and fantastic to have on set. And so that set as a whole was just this entire experience of everyone feeling like they were on the Olympic gold medal team in a sport. Everyone was just so grateful to be there. It was. And now what I know that once you're in a show like that and the writers are writing well ahead of your episode. They've plotted out seasons and things change. But they had a plan for me, and now that I can see that, I understand that. But I had actually auditioned the previous year because I'm in season 2 through the end.
Okay.
But the previous year, season 1, I had auditioned for a different role and had a call back with Vince Gilligan in person.
Wow, that's amazing.
It was, and I was just so nervous. I was so nervous. I don't know if that's why I didn't book it, but I was happy with it because the role I got was fantastic, and also I got so many episodes, and so I feel like the roles that are meant for you come and find you.
That's good. The part about the nerves, I think, is important because I think we all feel it, and it's nice to hear from someone who has worked a lot. Is that you too are human and get nervous too?
Yeah, I would say I'm a lot better about it now, mostly because I understand the whole process.
Yeah.
And in the beginning, I felt, because of my years in theater, I felt more of like this sense that I'm performing and I've got this shot. And now I understand that it is so much more collaborative, and that it's sort of like a photo shoot where if you do the same look in every single photo, then you've wasted so many frames.
Yeah.
And that camera, and what it's so awesome about it in the way that it's different from theater, is that you're giving options, you're giving possibilities, you're giving opportunities, not just for the other characters, not just for the camera, but for the editor to come in with the director and find where it is. But Better Call Saul is unique in that if you read the scripts, and I really encourage anyone to do this, because the scripts are incredible, so you can probably find them online. If you read the scripts and then you watch the episode, it's pretty frame for frame what's on the script, which is very unique, but really telling of what experts they got to create the show.
Was there any sort of improvisation on set? Or is it you stated the word? Did it feel strict or?
Oh, it's strict. It was one of the few shows. I do a lot of improv, and I do a lot of improv in my dramatic work. And some of the shows on my resume, I did a lot of improv, and the writers were like, keep going, And I always try to feel that out before I get there, because I know it's a thing that I tend to do and do well.
Yeah.
But I don't want to step on toes. But no, the Better Call Saul team writes word for word, beat for beat. It is so thought out and purposeful. And also there's a real rhythm when you watch the show. There's a rhythm between characters that is so distinct, and worlds, like Saul's world versus the HHM world versus the other worlds of money laundering or drugs or whatever. Yeah. And so on set, the script supervisor is very present and very clear. Oh, this is actually there and that's over there. But I was so fortunate because so many of those actors have just pages of monologues, just monologue after monologue. But they got the best actors and they crushed.
For example, Audrey Moore.
For example, really all of them. Every day on set was this outstanding who's who, not even just of famous people, but really what I call Hollywood famous, where the actors, my mom wouldn't maybe know them, but every casting person, every industry person in Los Angeles or beyond knows who that person is.
That's really cool.
It was.
I have a tiny clip. I know you're in a lot of episodes, so here's...
great. Let's see.
Howard asked if you could go through them now.
It's 1:15. I was just about to grab some lunch.
Yeah, he needs them done by 2:30 so he can draft a letter. I brought these. Figured I could petty cash a lunch order for you. I got accounting to approve that new fancy salad place.
That's so good.
She's such a dope. I just love her. She's such a little... Poor Kim's character is working so hard to be taken seriously and do things correctly. And then I come in, I'm like, my God, salad.
But that's a real person. There are people like that.
1,000%. Absolutely.
And we like them.
Yes, we do.
You are not that person, though.
Personality hires, that's what we call them.
Yeah, that's great.
That's great.
You also did, so it wasn't all recurring, but you also would do maybe a day, say, on Feud.
That was great.
Yeah, I would love to know about that, because, I mean, obviously working opposite Jessica Lange.
Oof. That was so funny, because that was another same-day audition. I'd gotten the call at, I think, 10 in the morning, and I had been sent from my rep that they had pitched me for the role. And I was like, oh, sure, I'm going to go in to be opposite Jessica Lange as her daughter. Yeah, right. So then I got a same-day audition for it, and it was in 3 hours, and I needed to be in full period attire. I mean, I didn't need to be, but I knew it was Ryan Murphy, and it was a period piece. And
we want that for auditions?
I do.
Okay. Because I know, like, in New York, I've gone out there. My agent will reach out to me after saying, they do not want you to do that.
Yeah. Here's the thing. I don't know. Sure.
They said, don't do it again.
If an office, because offices know what their creatives respond to and don't respond to.
Okay.
And so there are offices that know that if you wear a lab coat, you'll get laughed out of it. Not by the casting director, but by that the production doesn't respond to that.
Sure.
And so it's not that casting thinks you're stupid, it's just that the director doesn't respond to it. It's not good or bad, it's just the director doesn't respond to it. And some people also want actors to stay more neutral because they'll find that they'll send 5 great actors to producers and one's wearing a lab coat and the producers are like, you know, he just really seems like a doctor to me. And they're like, is it the lab coat? Could it be the lab coat that makes them feel quite doctory? So that's also sometimes takes place where they want everyone sort of in more of a neutral experience so that the performance comes through. Yeah. But I don't want to say I don't care about any of it. If I get a specific direction that says, calm down, I will. But at the end of the day, it's my audition, my craft, my work, and getting into costume is such a transformative and integral part of my work. Sure. And I come alive in characters with different hair and makeup and props and wardrobe. Yeah. And I personally would never tell an actor that if they got into character and became full because they did their hair and put on an outfit, that they were less of an actor. That's outrageous to me. Totally. And so I think that there are people who may have a preference and also certain size roles that also may feel a certain way by certain people. But in general, we could look at my resume and I could tell you which ones I went in full costume for, and it was as good as all of them.
Wow, that's a great note, because that at that time it scared me. I'm like, I'm never going to do that again.
Yeah.
But it does inform the performance when you do get in the costume. It makes you feel it.
And here's the thing. If people are insecure about it, especially now in the day of self-tapes, send one in the lab coat and send one not in the lab coat. It's fine. Right?
About wigs and stuff too.
About what?
You've talked about using wigs, different wigs.
Oh, I use, because it's part of I have never been in a trailer where people weren't wearing hair. And usually I'm the only person not wearing hair. I mean, every actress, every actor, every series regular, every single person has hair sitting on it's like a little thing like this, and they put wigs on it, and many of them, several different styles that they use. And so I don't know why we're all pretending that hair, makeup, wardrobe, props aren't a part of what we do as actors. Yeah. It may not be a part of what some people do as actors, but I don't begrudge them the fact that they don't use it if it works for them, any more than I would begrudge another actor if they use it and that's what brings them to life.
I think we should judge the other actors. So that brings me back to Feud. You went in full costume.
Went in full costume. Absolutely felt like an idiot. This is, now that we're not in the room anymore, it's different. But when we were in the room, every single time, I would go in full costume, and I would be the only one going all the way. And then I would feel like, gosh, Audrey, you are so stupid. Like, this is not appropriate anymore. You're at a level now where coming in a full costume starts to make you look like an idiot. You don't look cool anymore. It's not unique. It's not, and then all the other girls would be like, nice outfit. And I'd be like, great, thanks. And then every time I would go home and then I would book the job. And so it was just part of my process, get in costume, go there, feel ashamed, feel mortified, do the audition, book the job. And so for that one, I showed up, and it was just one of those beautiful examples of really understanding what the character was going through. Yeah. In such a personal and unique way. And I could tell during the audition that I had gotten it, because what used to happen in person is they would go,
They look up.
well, you would just see their faces go from like to like,
This is what
and they would suddenly like be like, very, very good. Okay, Audrey, thank you. Just like this lightness of like, oh, thank God. Yeah. And so that was wonderful. But I was absolutely, I was filming, I think in 2 days. And they then completely rewrote my episode the night before. So I had to relearn the scene all over again. It was a guest star.
Yeah.
And, you know, I was quite freaked out about working with Jessica Lange, and I called some of my friends who were, you know, had resumes that were a little larger than mine, and I was like, what do I do? How am I? I called one of my friends and I said, how am I going to make it to actually filming without passing out and killing myself in my car? Like, am I going to have to take a car service to the studio in order to possibly not black out on the way? And what can I do? And bless my friend, she was like, yeah, I've never worked with anyone that famous. And I was like, you haven't? And she's second generation. She's amazing. And I was like, And so unfortunately, no one was able to help me. But what I realized was that that's absolutely the opposite person to be nervous to be working around with, because they're so good.
Yeah.
All I have to do is show up. And I was nervous because I knew they would be so good. And now I'm like, oh no, the people to be nervous of are the ones who don't have the experience, don't have that pedigree, and don't know what we're doing here on set today, because they're the ones who might go weird and try and get controlling and things like that. But I found just the absolute opposite with really every celebrity that I have had the pleasure to work with. And she was just so good. I just had to sit there and listen. And it taught me a really great lesson about casting too, because the role was so right for me, given the given circumstances of what had happened.
Yeah.
And I knew the event of the scene so clearly. They gave me quiche to eat, and I don't eat eggs. They make me vomit. And they put this amazing dog on her lap, which was just like the cutest, most outstanding thing ever. And then they had, there was supposed to be racket going on. So there was just all this stuff, and it's Jessica Lange and everything. And I thought, it's so good that I am so connected to what this scene is about, that it is so in my soul already that I don't have to then worry about being thrown off by anything, because I'm right there.
It's an epic scene. It is a long scene. I have a small piece of it, and I want people to watch it, because no one touches the quiche. And I'm playing this to prove that point.
Great.
Mommy, I'm worried about you. Mamacita says you've stopped seeing your doctor.
Yes, dear, that's right.
Do you think that's wise?
I have been feeling a wonderful new vigor. I really have. I feel like I could take anything life could throw at me. Speaking of which, have you talked to your sister?
Cindy and I speak all the time.
Oh, no, darling. I know you and Cindy do. Of course you do. No, I was referring to your elder sister, to Christina.
No, not recently.
My editor tells me she's been writing a book.
Children, I told you before we got here, no sliding on Grandma's floors.
No. No, what's a few scuff marks? It doesn't matter. Do they think of me as their real grandmother?
Of course.
It's really good. I trimmed that up a bit. There's more.
Yeah, it's great.
In that segment.
Yes.
A lot, like what I found watching that, and obviously there's nothing that says you are not as experienced as she is when watching that, but a lot of the role is listening of your role, and that can be really difficult to be looking like you're engaged and listening when you've maybe heard the scene quite a few times. Did you find that a challenge at all? You're like, what, just watching her is amazing?
No, because the event is so solid. So essentially what's happening in this scene, as if we're talking about like an actual event, is I've brought my kids over to see their grandma. But my mom, their grandmother, though I'm adopted, is dying from cancer. And my sibling has written this horrible, scathing book about her called Mommy Dearest, and has just ripped her apart.
Yeah.
And I have a lot, well, first of all, my dad died of cancer when I was 22, and I was his caretaker. So I know exactly what that experience is of watching your parent
In real
die
life?
in real life.
Oh, I'm so
yeah.
sorry.
Oh, thank you. Yeah. It was years ago, but yes, I'll take it. And because of that, I knew that moment of watching your parents deteriorate from a disease that would eventually take them. And my older brother had really put my parents through the ringer in a way that I knew that they wondered if they were bad parents.
Yeah.
And that's essentially what she's struggling with, is she's dying and she's looking at her legacy, and she has cancer taking her down. And so I'm watching a parent dying of cancer, and then she's struggling, am I a good parent? Have I been a good addition to your life? I've adopted you, but have I been good? And I know what it's like to sit next to my parent and tell them that the goings on of a sibling was not the parent's fault, that they were a good parent, I had a good upbringing, and that I was grateful to have them as a parent. And so part of what happens if you have watched somebody die of cancer intimately as their caretaker is something as simple as a scarf on their head just takes you right there. You don't need anything else. And they did such a fantastic job in terms of how they wardrobed her, and also she did such a fantastic job of the energy level of somebody in that state, which is it's fatigued and sad, but longing and nostalgia. And so I didn't struggle with being present and listening, because my experience of somebody with that kind of illness or that level of illness is that you spend every moment wondering if they're going to fall, if they're going to collapse, because at any moment weird things happen, like their lung collapses and they don't breathe anymore, and they got to take them to the hospital. So it is an extraordinarily fragile and tenuous experience to be a part of. And so I was just immediately clued in through my own personal life experience as to what that was.
Wow. So it's, again, the empathy, understanding people. Wow. It's a powerful scene. I encourage people to go watch the whole thing.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, no, thank you for sharing that. I should have probably known more about
you. No, it's great. It's great for me to tell people. It's great.
So from there, you got a series regular on Godless. I don't know if it was immediately after or in that zone.
Yeah, it was later that year.
I'm going to play a clip. It's tricky because you're in a whole lot of it. So I just I did this little thing. I'm sure copywriting is going to say, no, you got to trim this down, but here it is. Right.
A Trinidad girl is a hottie thing. If she kisses at all, it's on the wing. The Catskill girl is the one to call her. Kisses you're good for $50. The E-Town girl gives a kiss so sweet. The poets all fall down at her feet. There's the Red River girls all due for a song. Kissing from meal tickets all day long. But don't forget the girls of LaBelle. Won't kiss even mom
been so fun.
Yay, it was so fun.
Oh, man.
Yeah. What a amazing thing.
Yeah, just again, the costumes, the setting, what you get to do in there, and you're so great as
Thank
we
you.
and again, that's just a small piece of it.
Yeah.
But anything you want to share about that experience? I don't want to keep you forever. We're getting a little
No,
long.
it's great. I can tell you, well, my story, my confidence story is from Godless.
Oh, should we go to your?
If you want to.
Let me tease my little picture, the kiss and tell. Lovely.
Well, what was so awesome about the experience was that it was very much like doing a play in that the writer was the director, was the showrunner. And so what happened is we rehearsed on Saturdays many of the longer, more challenging scenes.
Okay.
And he would be listening and watching the camera and was very open to things being adjusted in terms of lines or characters or whatever as we sort of found it, because he knew that there was writing something for people to read and for people to have as inspiration to create and shoot and do those things. But then you find it on the day in its own way. And he had the support of Netflix and the studio to spend Saturdays when needed to rehearse these larger scenes. So one of the scenes that ended up being the scene from Merritt Wever, who's phenomenal in the role and won an Emmy for her role in the show. It's a large dinner scene, and it's one of those scenes where it's, so many pages, and I think there's 12, 14 of us around this dinner table.
I thought that it takes like the whole episode.
It takes the entire episode. Yeah. And wonderful, just so exciting. But it was really awesome to watch, in particular to watch Merritt work, because the confidence that she had, and that was based off of genuine interest, a genuine desire to fight for her character, to fight for what this character would do or would stand for or would fall for, was so beautiful to watch Scott, the writer, director, who had also done Queen's Gambit that people may know from a few years later, to watch Scott really use her as an asset to help inform him of the direction and the focus of this do we, don't we dynamic that's happening within the scene.
Yeah.
And we rehearsed it, and boy, he came back and he had adjusted the scene a bit, and what an honor to watch that kind of collaboration happen in real time between one of the best living writers that we have. If anyone wants to look up Scott Frank's resume, I dare you. And then Merritt, great, okay, good. And then Merritt and her resume, and Merritt and I are the same age, and she's just had this astounding amount of experience already that is so beautiful. But from both of them, humility and interest. Just a lot of where is it? How is it? What are we fighting for? Is this honest? Is this fight for this honest? And that ended up being the clip that they used on the Emmys when they announced her nomination. Oh, wow. They said her name and then they play the clip, from the show. And it was that clip from that scene because she was so powerful and outstanding, but it was because they were given the time and took the time to really dig in and make sure that the moments were earned. I thought that was so great.
That is really cool. And it's cool to see being involved in a project when people are there for the right reasons about the art and not just it's not a machine, as sometimes the procedural can be. And I'm happy for the work.
Sure, absolutely. Yeah. I've been very fortunate in that so much of what I have booked has been this high echelon content with real auteurs, character ensemble pieces that are about a character arc and their driven story. Now, that's not to say, because truly, things like Lucifer and those that are so fun are having a blast. I mean, I think the happiest single day of my life on set was my final day on NCIS. I was like, this is amazing. It's just because everyone was so happy. Yeah, well, also everyone's so happy to be there. And there was like 80 dogs on set because everyone brought their dogs. The show's been on for 22 years. And so it was just this super fun, buoyant environment. But I feel very lucky to have had a solid amount that I've had and that I look forward to continuing getting that are these delicious, beautiful, time-taking, find it creative process pieces of work.
Yeah, and you will. There will.
I'm excited. Yeah.
I will hire you if I ever.
Okay, great. Okay, great. Ditto.
Now, lastly, thank you. Lastly, I want to get into this very important thing. This, Audrey Helps Actors. Now, this is a gift that you have given to actors all over the world, anyone that can seek out podcasts. I'm trying to remember how I found you. I think there was this interview with an actor on TV. I think she was from The Office, and she, I guess, had been sick and maybe dying of cancer or something, but she didn't die, which is good.
Yeah.
But I was like, oh, I want to hear her podcast and read her book. So I pursued it, and I stumbled across you thinking you were the same person. And
that's hilarious.
Yeah, so I started listening to you like when I'd go to the gym. Not that I go to the gym because I don't have
muscles. Yes, ditto.
Don't agree. No, okay, you've got more muscles and a lot of love.
Great.
Yeah, so I started listening. I'm like, oh my God, I needed this. You are so humble and you talk about it from the up and coming actor's perspective. I just want to play a quick clip of sort of what people get when they listen to your podcast. And also which will bring us into the self-tape May, which was a huge help to me. Okay.
I hope you also have some great auditions this week. I hope you have a self-tape, maybe safely in person. Wouldn't that be awesome? And I want you to book it!
Audrey helps actors because they don't know anything.
Hi, everybody. I'm Audrey Moore with Audrey Helps Actors podcast, and today we have Self-Tape May. We have new episodes for you starting April 28th in preparation for a buoyant Self-Tape May. But before that...
It's free, and you can sign up at selftapemay.com. It's 16 self-tapes in the month of May, posted to Instagram using the hashtag selftapemay, hashtag selftapemay 2025. I don't know about you, but like I surrender to a romantic comedy in a way that is just so satisfying. Like a romantic comedy is just like a really hot bath after you've like been outside like skiing or like making a snowman. It's just like, it's just like, melts you and just like so great. So do some rom-coms. I want rom-coms. I would love somebody to do Wall-E. How you're going to do that, I don't know. That's what's exciting about it. How are you going to do Wall-E? Because it's maybe the greatest romantic comedy ever to have been made.
I'm not going to try that. I'm not going to Wall-E.
That's okay. We have other people who've taken up the challenge, so it's good.
Okay, good. But this was a huge help to me. There was a time, and I think we all go through the peaks and valleys of this business. And I would say it was maybe around 2018, 19. You started this in 17, is that correct?
I think I started 18.
18. Okay, so it was 18.
Yeah.
And
when I started Self-Tape May, yeah.
Okay. And I was like, oh man, I'm not really feeling it. Then I had your Self-Tape May. And that was, can you explain what Self-Tape May is, which we sort of heard that clip, and then I'll talk more about that.
Yeah, Self-Tape May is a challenge in the month of May, just like you'll have, a 30-day yoga challenge or eat clean for 14 days challenge or something. But this is self-tape practice for the month of May, and it's 16 tapes in the month of May, and that's really all there is to it. Self-tapes that you do to practice your own audition interests or acting desires. There aren't a lot of rules. There's only one rule, which is that if the material you are doing has not aired, so say it's an actual audition or it's material that you got a script that maybe hasn't actually aired yet, I just require that people mute it. And the self-tape May police aren't coming, but it's just for your own protection that I don't want casting or an agent or anyone to call you and shut you down because you've done something that hasn't aired yet. But other than that, I've had people who've done tons of television, people who've done musical theater, people who've improvised 16 times in a row, monologues, songs, dance numbers, because dancers get asked to do things in like 2 hours. And that has been so fun. And so you can sign up at selftapemay.com. There's videos that talk a little bit more about it. It's free. It's 1000% free. I'm so concerned for everyone's mental health and financial health right now. It's free. It's always been free. It's free. And I just want people always to do it to ignite their own passion and heart. Do what I think it did for you, which is rebuild your confidence for some people. And also have fun doing it, hopefully with people that you care about.
It's a great way to build community, also because everyone's tagging with the self-tape May 2025, and you connect with the people doing it, and the level of, like you said, the level of talent, especially now because your following is huge, because you are such a great help. I mean it sincerely. It's not you're not a guru, you're just an inspiration, and you're in it with us. And you're kind of pulling us along and lifting us up. And for me, doing the self-tape May, I was in one of those, those valleys.
Yeah, yes.
And I'm like, well, why not? I'm not doing anything else. I'm not getting a lot of opportunities at that moment. And so I did the 16 tapes, and it dusted me off. It inspired me, reminded me why I dig it. Why, acting is fun. It's not just this machine that makes you feel horrible. And sure, it still feels horrible sometimes, but it's the anticipation and excitement for what's to come. And that's, and you also talk about the business side of things too, which you make sure that no one forgets about, but I cannot recommend enough that people check out Audrey Helps Actors. Woohoo! On Instagram, Audrey Helps Actors podcast, website, you can see it right there, Audrey Helps Actors podcast.com, and YouTube, Audrey Helps Actors podcast 5447. How did you come up with that 5547?
I don't know. That's my husband. You'll have to ask. I don't know. It's all of his nefarious doing. So anything that has to do with any of that, I rarely get asked.
Well, thank you, Jesse Lumen.
Thank you, Jesse Lumen, for your 5557.
Well, thank you for your time. I sometimes ask for more advice, but you gave tons. I ask for, if you have Hocus Pocus, you talk about this in your show. So check out Audrey Helps Actors. Thank you.
I just wanted to say thank you so much for having me on, and thank you for all that you do for our community. You are so generous, and you are so transparent, which is invaluable to everyone, no matter what level they're at. The more that we can encourage transparency in our own journeys, the more we can normalize the journey for everyone around us, coming up or above or to the side, wherever they are in their journey. And I'm so grateful to be able to have connected with you and the entire Boston and New York, Connecticut gang. And I'm thrilled. I'm thrilled that you're doing this. I'm so grateful to be on.
Thank you. Can we end with one more clip of your acting? Because I do want to. Because you do the podcast, but I want to remind people how excellent you are. Seriously, what a powerhouse you are as an actor. And oh shoot, okay, this is up to you. Do I play DOPESICK or Grey's Anatomy?
Oh God, it's like choosing between your children. Let's do DOPESICK.
We're gonna do DOPESICK. Okay.
Okay, great.
Your Grey's Anatomy is so bad.
Okay, great.
Spoiler. Okay, here's DOPESICK.
Shortly after all of this happened, I was in a car accident and some of the injuries lingered. One day at work, Mr. Udell saw me limping, and so he took me into his office and he said, He said, we've got to get you on OxyContin. And at first it was great, but then the pain kept coming back, and I needed more and more until finally I was hooked. And then they fired me for being a drug addict.
I'm so sorry that you had to go through all of that. It is truly unjust. Can I ask, are you clean now?
Yes, I am.
That's great.
Amazing.
She kills
So
me.
powerful.
Thank you.
Well, everyone celebrate Audrey. She's amazing.
Thank
Check
you.
out her work and please check out her podcast. Thank you again for your podcast. Such a lifesaver.
My pleasure. Thank you. Yay!
Yay. Thank you, Audrey. Stick around for
Ta-da.
1 second. Goodbye,
great.
everyone else. Let's play our goodbye theme song.
You can